So no white smoke yet from the Brexit negotiating chambers. EU and UK officials have been continuing their talks today to try and see if they can broker a deal that can then be presented to the EU 27 leaders at the EU summit, which starts in Brussels tomorrow. Now, yesterday we saw a seesaw of conflicting reports on the state of the negotiations. There were positive signs that a deal was in sight, but then those more optimistic reports were dampened down later in the day, with officials playing down the chances of a deal being brokered before tomorrow's meetings. It may still happen, but the EU will want to make sure that any deal that is brokered will be legally watertight. And this is obviously going to be particularly the case with Northern Ireland and its future customs relations with the UK and the EU, whatever they transpire to be in the end. Today, the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, will brief EU commissioners and EU ambassadors on the latest state of play with those Brexit negotiations. So we may start to get more information on the nitty-gritty details of this deal that's being brokered and, well, if it is being brokered, and indeed what compromises Boris Johnson is having to make as well. However, I have to say, I think the chances of a legally watertight deal that is being published with the accompanying legal text, all of that ready for tomorrow's EU summit, I think is probably unlikely. We're probably more looking at these talks continuing into next week. And then that brings us to the special sitting of the UK Parliament, which is to take place on Saturday. And in theory, because of the Ben Act, Boris Johnson will be legally obliged to ask the EU for an extension to the Brexit 31st of October deadline if he can't get an agreement on a deal from British MPs. So all to play for still with these Brexit negotiations.